Conflict of interest is a general law term which arises when a party is involved with a business dealing and they have multiple interests in the dealing, usually on opposite sides. In other words, they have a duty to both sides of the dealing and would be breaching that duty no matter which side of the dealing they work for, because that inherently means they are working against the other party. Conglomerate is a mergers and acquisitions term generally meaning a large corporation or several entities aggregated and mixed together to perform business under one umbrella. Consequential damages is a general law term also referred to as special damages and means injury suffered from an indirect result of an event or incident. Example, a contracts with B for 500 pencils by a certain date. B breaches the contract by not delivering any pencils, which leads to direct damages of the cost of the 500 pencils. The indirect or consequential damages, however, could be the cost to A to contract with another manufacturer to get them the pencils. In this scenario, B would be liable for both the cost of the 500 pencils and the extra expenses A incurred, related to having to create a new contract with a third party. Consolidation is a mergers and acquisitions term which generally means the action or process of combining a number of things into a single more effective or coherent whole. In law and corporations, it is often used to describe consolidation of company assets, consolidation of a stock price to determine support and resistance levels, and consolidation of financial statements among parent companies and subsidiaries. Consortium is a business law and partners and corporations term which refers to multiple individuals or firms pooling resources to cooperatively conduct a business activity, usually with a mutually beneficial outcome expected. Constructive discharge/constructive dismissal is a constitutional and employment law term used by plaintiffs in cases where they were forced to resign from their position due to the employer making it intolerable to work there. Hostile work environment can come about a number of ways, such as harassment or discrimination. It is used when there is a retaliatory termination. Constructive fraud is a contracts law term used when an individual or entity uses deceitful tactics to gain an unfair advantage. The major difference from actual fraud is that a constructive fraud does not require intent. It is a legal fiction. Constructive notice is a general law term used when someone is presumed to have actually received a notice, if certain procedures were followed, even if they never received the notice. It is a legal fiction. Constructive possession is a contracts and sales law term used when an individual or entity has legal control over an object or property even if they do not physically have it in their actual possession. This occurs often when a company ships goods before the full cost of goods has been paid. Contract of adhesion is a contracts law term used when one party to a contract has significantly more bargaining power than the other party regarding material terms of the contract. The most frequent example of an adhesion contract is a standardized form which one signs basically under a take-it or leave-it offering from a conglomerate entity such as a credit company. These forms are often found in online business. Conversion is a tort claim where one intentionally takes another's chattel with the intent of exercising ownership of the chattel, counter to the true owner's right of possession. Conveyance is a contracts and sales law term used to describe the legal process of transferring property one owner to another. Land titles such as a deed are often transferred through conveyance. Cooperative is a business law term for a private organization which is owned and controlled by the people who use the goods or services of the organization. Each person usually contributes capital and has an ownership stake. Copyright is patent law and property rights law term which protects original work from unauthorized use without due credit and compensation. Generally, copyright lasts during the copyright owner's life plus 50 years. Cornering the market is a business law term which is usually viewed as an unethical monopolization of a given product or service to increase price. Supply and demand plus antitrust laws are what we use to defend against companies attempting to corner the market. Corporate fraud is a business law term referring to illegal activities and schemes meant to unfairly derive a benefit to the perpetuator of the fraud. Corporate veil is a business law term used to describe the shelter that boards of directors and shareholders enjoy from lawsuits to the corporation. When a court pierce is a corporate veil, they are intentionally going past the shelter that the corporation usually provides in order to sue individual members of the corporation. Corporation is a business law term used when an organization meets certain requirements including a legal existence, which meaning the corporation itself operates like a person would and is free to conduct business and to be sued as such. Very often corporations provide limited liability to the creditors of the business. A corporation lives on perpetually as long as it is not legally terminated in some other fashion. Counteroffer is a contracts law term used to describe a negotiation where the offeree declines an offer from the master of the offer and gives back an offer of their own. The important thing here is that a counteroffer is a rejection of the original offer, followed by a new offer. The UCC does gap fill these situations sometimes, particularly among merchants. Course of employment is a general law term which refers to an employee carrying out their tasks under the orders of their employer. Courts often look to whether a harm occurred while the employee was acting within the scope of those activities. Interesting cases arises when it is difficult to tell if a relationship is one of that of an employer and employee or that of employer and an independent contractor. Covenant not to compete is a general law term which often come about due to a non-compete clause in their contract. Non-competing means not conducting the same business at all, or sometimes not within the same area of a former workplace, usually for a certain amount of time. Crowdsourcing is a corporation's law term used usually referring to how companies use the internet to hire, usually large amounts of people mail to people for projects either on a paid or volunteer basis. Crown jewels defense is corporation's law term used when a company intentionally makes itself look financially weaker than it is, so that they are less likely to be taken over. The idea being, the company is not worth anything, so why want to own it? Cumulative voting is a corporation's term which allows minority stockholders to vote for board members. Each shareholder usually gets a vote for each vacant board seat, but they are free to give all votes to one person, or to spread them out by giving various numbers to several different persons.